How to replace a Range Rover key rubber. So this is my spare key. The main one was obviously much worse. If you can see, it's all collapsed in. So I've got a spare one off of YouTube, off of eBay. It's about £5, something like that. So nothing too extravagant. They do look a bit rough, but obviously it gets locked away inside and you don't really notice it thereafter. And there is one I did earlier. So what you'll need is a small flathead screwdriver. In this case I'm using a bit set, so it's an extension bar. You'll need a knife, and I'll be using a scalpel, but I did do it with a Stanley knife the first time round, so you don't need to go out and buy anything extravagant. And a small Phillips screwdriver. It's PH1 for the screws. So let's get going. So the first thing you'll need to do is take the back cover off, which just pops off with a screwdriver, like so, to show you these two screws. And the Phillips comes in here with a twist. The old adage of lefty loosey. So once them two are off, obviously you can remove the rear cover and have access to the board itself. Now, some keys, there's a timed connection for the battery before you need to reprogram it, but these ones, the first time around I had it off for like 20-30 minutes when I did the first key, and I didn't have any issues, so obviously there's no issues there. So the next thing you need to do is obviously remove the control board, which is just a case of finding somewhere that will actually purchase with the screwdriver. I tend to find this little corner here gives the best sort of grip, and then that was that corner, and then obviously once that's come loose, you can remove the board. And make sure to take note of the actual transponder and where it sits, otherwise you'll be struggling to put it back together later on. So that's basically the disassemble. It is now just a carcass, and the next step is where the scalpel comes in. Now what you actually have to do is you have to cut around the rubber. It's like a lip, which I don't know if you can see that. And what the lips do is they basically sit and sandwich between the plastic. So what you need to do is, with the scalpel, very gently cut around each button. Now you want to be careful if it's a fairly newish key or a clean key. My keys, obviously, it's nearly 20 years old and battered, so I'm not too bothered about scraping it. So all we do is we just cut around each of the buttons, and all this is just to cut away the glue that is put on in the factory when they fit them. Now this central piece is actually just hard plastic, so you can cut into the button, but it's not really that important. So we'll just make sure we've cut around. See, there's the plastic I was mentioning. You can sort of feel it when you try to get in. So, yeah, I've already done that. Let's cut there. So I'm using quite a sharp blade as well, which obviously will help compared to an old blade if you're doing this. As you can see, mine's not actually connected there, so once you've cut all the way around, it's a case of just pushing it or pulling it from the back and basically just trying to work the old rubber out. Now if you've missed a bit of the glue, it will prove to be a bit tricky, but they are quite tight anyway. So obviously the second time you do this, it won't be a problem because we don't glue it back in. I'm just going to get a back of that screwdriver and try and just push it a bit. See, as they are glued in, it's a bit of a challenge sometimes. Obviously, with me pushing, I can see where I've missed the glue that's holding the rubber. So I'll just run over it again until she's free. See, if you're worried about your key, don't slip like that. Whereas mine, as I say, is old enough for me not to care about too much. But my original key was losing function, so that's why I swapped that, and obviously I thought it best to do it as a pair, so there we go. That's the old rubber out. Now, as you can see, I've damaged a couple of the little blocks that hold the key in place, but it's not too important really, because once it's all wedged in, it tends to not go anywhere. So that's all it's glued to, this little sort of rail. You can kind of see here all the spots. So, onwards and upwards. The new rubber obviously is a reverse, so what you need to do is you need to wiggle the lip basically and press it in so that it goes back onto the little guide rail. It can be a bit tricky to start. I found once it starts it goes a bit easier, but this will be the time it proves me wrong, as these things often do. Once you get that first corner in, it then starts to fall into place. But it's getting that first corner in. So I've got the first one in now. So now I just need to chase it round. You see it's a bit fiddly, but cheaper than a new key. Right, so there's the Land Rover button in. Now the fun little buttons at the bottom. I say fun because last time I struggled with these more than the Land Rover button itself, but we'll see. There's one. I find if you press it from behind at the same time, it helps just force that rubber up. So last little section, there we go. Rubber replaced. So now obviously the next step is simply to put it back together, which we start with the transponder, making sure that's in the right place. Then the board goes back on. Now it will be a bit tighter because obviously the new rubber is thicker than the old rubber, so it just pushes it. And then simply put the case on, do up the 2 screws, back cover on, and job done. Wrong way around. Et voila. So I hope that's helpful. I know I'm no hand model or much of a conversationist, but hope it was helpful and good luck.